I'm Darian Gray of Who Dat Dish, and honestly, Shuck could use some pointers from Breeze on how to throw beads from that float.
John Hendricks, New Orleans Football. Happy Mardi Gras to everybody. And yes, I am very festive today.
This is former Saints wide receiver. Oh my goodness, wide receiver Lance Moore with no beard, and apparently I forgot how to talk. But happy Mardi Gras from California.
It's the Saints Squad. Everything New Orleans Saints, every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from down in the Big Easy, the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Saints Squad Show, starting now.
Going on, Who Dat Nation? Welcome back to the Saints Squad Show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network in the country. Your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day every Monday and Thursday and sometimes on Tuesday. Honestly, just check every day. You never know when we're going to pop up, but I promise we'll be here. So we have a unique group of experts here ready to bring you a fun and informative show on everything New Orleans Saints. Today we're going to break down Cam Jordan's season, right? The ageless wonder that he is. What picks are people not talking about as options for the Saints at 8? Play a little King of the Hill to see what's the best running back free agency fit. But also, it's time to start considering Demario Davis may leave the team. I kind of brushed it off at first. Like, he's just talking, you don't want to commit. He's probably negotiating. But as time's gone on, I began to really realize smoke, fire could be real. If Davis were to leave New Orleans, John, I'm feeling like this is going to catapult towards the top of the list of priorities. Maybe not one, but it's definitely in that upper echelon to me.
I agree. I think it would be a big thing. And here's the thing is what I say. I think you group him, you group Cam into this, obviously, and you group Taysom. I think there's a point where the Saints just don't have to spend all the money in the world just to get these players back in the building. Look, I shudder to think at the thought of not having Demario Davis there, number 56 and all that at the linebacker position, but it is going to happen someday, just like Cam's not going to be there someday. We knew it with Drew. Someday it was not going to happen. But with Demario leaving, I feel good about passing the torch over to a guy like Danny Stutzman or getting more guys like Isaiah Stallbird a shot here. And the thing is, Pete Warner, are they ready for that tandem? I'm not sure. Like, that's the thing is I feel like Peter Sermon, the linebackers coach, has done an excellent job with a lot of the players that have been there, really elevated some of the talents, unlocking some of the strengths there. That could be also part of Brandon Staley's defense. And I know Demario was really happy with Staley. He said a lot of the good things about Staley, things that never have been said about previous coaches in some aspects. And whether that's a good thing or bad thing, it's just a different view and kind of instilling his love for the game again. And look, I think that when it's all said and done, Demario's back, right? Okay. But at the same time, I feel like if he does leave, it does push a few things where you're like, I better think through this. And we lost a major part of our leadership. We lost pretty much the heartbeat of the defense, maybe heartbeat of the team, if I'm being honest. But with him, if he does go, you got to backfill that with some talent, right? Like, and that's not a knock on who they have in the building, but you need to look like yesterday to see who's going to come in the building, not necessarily pick up, because you can't just say, here's Demario, I'm going to replace him with X player, because that's not necessarily fair to that person to coming in. And it's also not fair to Demario, because a lot of players aren't on Demario's level unless they get like Levante David or Bobby Wagner. But, you're talking in the same tier, right? In my opinion. But look, it's a need for sure that has to be addressed. Now, whether that's through free agency or not, that's going to be another question, because the Saints, they're going to go with this youth movement, I feel like, and I think they're going to keep going in that direction. But look, I feel like it could go either way, but I think he stays.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit devil's advocate here. I think there needs to be a more serious discussion on the fact that he very well might choose to go play somewhere else. I think he, like all of us who have retired from the sport, probably realizes or has realized that the ultimate goal if it's still his ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl, and I would imagine he's realistic enough to know that this organization is ascending, that there are some really good young building block type pieces on this roster. And with some more moves this offseason, they can continue that upward trajectory. But I think we'd be foolish to think that, oh, just because the team has a little bit more hope this time this year than it did a year ago or the last couple of years, that he's all of a sudden going to say, you know what, I have my chance to win the Super Bowl, a better chance with the Saints in 2026 than anybody else. I think he's going to be a guy that, if he's open to it, would be highly sought after from multiple championship caliber organizations that could potentially be a Demario Davis away from, their defense being Super Bowl caliber. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. I mean, I think Quay Walker in Green Bay is going to be a free agent. He's probably going to go somewhere else and get big paid. I mean, I think Demario in that defense would be really good, and I feel like Green Bay is a level above where this current roster is. And I'm not trying to put rumors out there or anything. I haven't spoken to Demario or anybody that's close to him. So, but I just think for conversation purposes in this exercise, I think we need to be thinking linebacker for sure, whether that's free agency or the draft. And I'm like John, I don't know that I would necessarily be interested in trying to replace Demario with a single player. I think depth type players would be more in line with where this team is at. I think as it goes right now, if Demario is out of the picture, I think Denny Stutzman and Pete Warner are the two starting linebackers. Isaiah Stallbird is going to have to I would imagine he'd be like the hybrid guy that would be just the third guy, not necessarily one position or the other. He's going to have to learn and know both, but you're going to need some pieces beyond them to, one, obviously take up some of those reps on special teams, but also to be ready in the chance that one or two of your starting linebackers goes down. And even if Demario is back, I still think linebacker is a position of need for depth purposes, because you just don't know how long in his 15th season he's going to last.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If Demario leaves, I think I have this as the third biggest need on the team. I'll give my bias out there. I love running hit linebackers. Like, when I think about my favorite defenses in the NFL, I think about the Texans, and yes, they have that pairing of Anderson and Hunter. They have a phenomenal backfield, but I also think about the Saleh, Ryan, San Francisco's, right? Like, that tree of defenses, I always think about their run and hit linebackers. So when I start thinking about great defenses, that's one of the traits that I think about, despite it being not the most premier position on the defense. So I'm having to jump up to number 3 if Davis leaves, because I don't have trust in Stutzman and Warner. Warner is a player who I feel like I've seen and I don't necessarily love, while Stutzman is still just unproven. We'll see what he can be, but there's so many question marks. While you look at a wide receiver or an edge rusher where you have an Olave, you have a Young, where you at least feel like you have one stud on that side, but you don't know if you might want to get some more depth. So that's why I have linebacker so high, and I wouldn't mind to see them make a splash if they decide to not do it at guard, or because guard is my for sure number one on this team. But if they decide to not do it there, I wouldn't be mad if they went and paid big bucks to get some linebacker, whether that's a guy like I think Dean is someone who will probably be out there. The Eagles just got Jahad Campbell in last year's draft. I think Dean may hit the market. You mentioned Quay Walker earlier. There's a couple of other linebackers who I feel are significant investments that the Saints should pursue if Davis were to leave. I wouldn't be mad if they did it while Davis was here, honestly. So I think that this becomes a huge thing, but I was interested in one of the points that you brought up, Lance, about the Super Bowl and realizing that, you're not going to play forever. You were blessed enough to win a Super Bowl pretty early in your career, right? Like, you got that ring when, that was 4 or 5. Don't make me do math. Anyway, it was early in your
came in 2005.
My fifth year. It's my fifth year.
Hey, you see, that's what we thought. See, John was trying to get me to do math. John was like, "No, we're going to count this out."
I said he came in 2005. Let's do the math.
But no, Lance, you got that ring. What does that do as far as from an individual standpoint of feeling like your career is fulfilled? Because Davis doesn't have that yet, despite having a lot of personal accolades and whatnot. How do you think that could weigh into trying to influence his decision not having that ring yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, playing as long as he's played and being on teams that were really good and potentially had chances to win and not getting to the ultimate goal, right? Which is to get to a Super Bowl and to win a Super Bowl. I mean, he's made a lot of money. He's played a lot of football. I would imagine if I were him, that would probably be at the top of my list. But after winning one, honestly, I felt like we were going to win more in New Orleans. And that was part of the reason why I stayed, was because, well, I'm like, man, I'm playing with Drew Brees. Sean Payton is still here calling the plays, and we still have a really good roster. Like, and this is right before the 2011 season. So I'm like, I'm staying. Like, if I get offered more money elsewhere, which I didn't want to leave because I felt like we had a really, really good chance of winning again. I don't feel like that is necessarily the case with this team going into 2026. I do feel like they will be a lot better. I feel like they should be competing for the NFC South Championship. I feel like they should be a playoff team. But I feel like there are a lot of teams, and maybe not a lot, 8 to 10 teams that are probably a lot more ready than they are right now. And if any of those teams he feels like, are a good fit for how he plays personally, and then, he feels like they have a good chance of getting something together as far as the contract goes, I wouldn't be mad at him for that. He spent a long time in New Orleans. He's had a long, great career. Like I said, he's been great in the community. He's made a lot of money, but doesn't have that ring. And so if that is number one in his mind, I don't think anybody could be mad at him.
Well, we have other people joining.
Oh my gosh. Look at this. Ross and Dylan. Totally at meetings.
Hey y'all, I just wanted to come in and say thank y'all very much for handling the show today while Dylan and I are presenting our quarterly returns to Locked On and Tegna and handling all these meetings and everything. Like, it means a lot that y'all taking care of all this. It's awesome.
Holding it down.
Of course,
King Cake, bro.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Is that plain king cake behind there?
Just the baby.
Okay, is he eating plain king cake? Because if he's not, we're gonna put him.
There used to be frosting on it. They ain't frosted on it no more.
Oh my god.
There you go. All right, there.
Well, yeah. Mr. Locked On is saying they're handing out beads on Bourbon Street.
Oh, we gotta go. I'll see y'all later. Bye.
Okay.
See you.
Man, when duty calls. When duty. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how we transition from that. Someone said
I got a couple things. Yeah.
Anthony Hill Jr. in a second. I'll just ask, right? We talk about how big of a need this is. When it comes to the draft, if Demario leaves, you don't do it in free agency, you handle it in the draft. How early are y'all thinking? Someone said Hill in the second, Styles in the first. Might be a little rich, but I'll lob it up to y'all.
Well, here's what I would say, and this is I'm going to make a point before we had that nice little cameo on for Marty Croft. But the thing is okay. Here's what I would say. Brandon Staley.
I'm sorry, John. They don't care what they say.
I'm sorry. Dylan got the baby.
He got the baby.
Got the baby.
Well, tough break, Dylan. As always, next year.
Go ahead. You're good. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Lord have mercy. All right, let's see. Okay, so Demario Davis. I was gonna say Brandon Staley. We got to think about this too. Is somehow I'm trying to wrangle this back in. So Brandon Staley has had a lot of players follow him to his schemes, right? Yeah, Terrell Burgess, Jonah Williams, and stuff. So I'm not so sure that somebody from his past could potentially be a fit in here. And I'm not saying they're going to be Demario, but I'm just saying that's one way I would think about it. This other thing I was going to say on Demario is I know he was asked about on the Kay Adams show about, hey, what about Denver? He's like, I don't think Denver's a Demario Davis player away from getting the Super Bowl, which I thought was kind of interesting. So I think he would have some teams in mind of where he wants to go. Like he wouldn't go to New England. They got Robert Spillane. Spillane's guy that does everything for him. I don't think he'd go to Seattle either. I mean, there's some teams out there, like you mentioned, Green Bay might be a need. I don't know. We're not sure, but as far as drafting somebody, Buffalo absolutely needs somebody. But for me, second round, This is why I always say I got to see how free agency plays out a little bit, right? Because if they've addressed a good bit of the needs in free agency, they take a playmaker or best player available in round one, then I'm all about swinging and maybe looking at in the second round. But you're asking that I'm going into this thinking I have to draft this player in the second round. I think that's a recipe for failure.
And Lance was already shaking his head when he said second round.
Nah. Mm-mm. No, I just think there's even with Demario gone, I feel like there's more pressing needs on this roster than linebacker. And a playmaker and an interior offensive lineman, I think would be paramount. And then if we're, kind of going theoretical, if Alante happens to be gone, slot corner becomes an even more pressing need to me than linebacker. But I guess we just have to wait and see.
You have to wait and see. I wonder if we'll have any more cameos. We'll see. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to figure out how to transition. David says Stutzman needs the chance to start, and maybe that happens this year. We'll see. I do think that comes up. I would much rather him compete with Werner and have Demario there at least as I don't want to call it insurance, but like that keeps your floor pretty high. But we'll see. Anyway, let's transition to some other free agency topics. The idea of running back, because John always says that is Mardi Gras, isn't it? John always says you got to see how free agency plays out first, and he's right. So before we get into the Jeremiah Love of it all, how about we look at some of these veteran players, some of these free agents who are on the market as we continue with the Saints Squad show.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
As we continue rolling with the Saints Squad show, it's back to the three of us, maybe the five of us very soon. I don't try to predict it, okay? But that being said, we're rolling. We're taking a look at free agency once again, and the idea of running back, which I think we could all agree is a position that the Saints need to invest in either now or in the very near future. But let's take a look at this upcoming free agency class. And I'm just going to do a little King of the Hill style where I give you two names and say this guy or that guy. You can see whether or not you agree. Hopefully I don't have to break any ties. But if I do, we'll see. Kenneth Gainwell or Isaiah Pacheco?
I mean, I'm going to go Gainwell. What does it mean? I have concerns about Pacheco and his health and staying healthy. I like Pacheco as a player, but Gainwell for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually go Pacheco.
There we go. Okay. Why do I even say what I want? Y'all don't care.
Look, I mean, you have to break the tie, so we care.
This is what happens. Okay, why do you say Pacheco? Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm leaning Gainwell just because I think stylistically he's a little bit more explosive. He's the type of running back that I'm looking for. That's why I lean towards Gainwell, but I'm open to being swayed.
I feel like Kenneth Gainwell, in my opinion, hasn't really been an every down back. And so if we're talking, I mean, I guess Pacheco can run, but Pacheco is just violent.
Yeah,
and
he is.
Sure, he doesn't, break off a ton of big long runs, but neither does Gainwell. Gainwell's more used out of the backfield as a receiver. Because he's splitting carries pretty much everywhere he's been, more of a third down back. I feel like we've got a couple of really good third down pass catching backs, and I just feel like Pacheco would add a little bit meaner of an approach to the running back position than what we currently have on the roster.
Okay, I'm liking what I'm hearing, John. The floor is yours, and I'm gonna make my decision.
I'm just gonna put it the icing on the cake for me. Gainwell and Kellen Moore know each other from playing in Philly, so I think that's he knows what Gainwell's capable of, and obviously he had to take a little bit of a backseat, which is not a bad thing. But I think he had an opportunity to shine in Pittsburgh and made the most of it in some aspects. But I don't think we're looking necessarily when you're looking at those two. You're not talking about somebody who's going to be a bell cow running back. I think you're looking at somebody who's more of a support figure. And I think that's where the Saints need to go is they need to have like a Hydra running back by committee, excuse me. Can't talk. Might have had something. I got some of those whiffs from Dylan and Ross on bourbon. So, Kyle, that's
literally
what
on bourbon.
Indeed. Yeah. Indeed. I like that.
Hey, man, that's a double entendre right there, though. Not only are they on bourbon, but they are on bourbon.
Indeed. I will go with Gainwell. I like the idea of more knowing each other. That's a good point. Gainwell or Rico Dowdle?
Dowdle.
I think Dowdle, but I would just think that based off his comments from Carolina, I don't think they're going to be able to afford him. I think he thinks he's going to make a lot of money on the open market, which he should. You don't run for 200-yard games and be all the things. Very, very weird how they didn't really use him and they turned to Chuba Hubbard. And I don't know if that was just a thing or what, but I'm with Dowdle. I would have been a little bit, confused because you rode him all the way to get to where you needed to go and then to not use him. I think you can use Dowdle in a lot of ways. And so absolutely Dowdle if you can afford the bill.
Yeah, I think that's solid. Dowdle or Javonte Williams?
Man, I'm just going to stick with Dowdle here. I think I like Javonte Williams. I think he has some upside on him, but Dallas is a hard one to figure out. Like coming from there, was it the offensive line? Was it the play calling? Was it there? I think Javonte Williams would be just fine. I think Dowdle made the most out of a lot of deficiencies around him on offense. If that's the way I put it.
Yeah, I think Dallas got the version of Javonte Williams that Denver always wanted, which
boom
definitely is that a sign of his surroundings, or did he finally just become the player that they always thought that he could be? I'm kind of torn, but I like Dowdle, so I'm going to stick with Dowdle too.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Dowdle or Travis Etienne?
Man, if you want me to go first, it's Etienne for me. He does everything that Jacksonville needs him to do and then some. I think Dowdle's obviously the more affordable option here, but Etienne, I just love his upside. I just love what Liam Cohen and they finally figured out how to use him right in a lot of ways, because I think with Etienne, it was just a matter of just not being able to use him consistently, but I feel like he's done a fantastic job there. Now he's had some help. Was it Tashul Booten? I can't remember say his name.
I like him.
Tashul Tootin. Yeah, I had crossed the letters on there. So, yeah, no, I think that he had a support cast there, but I like his upside.
Yeah, I think Etienne also offers a different level of speed, different caliber of speed than Dowdle does. So yes. I think that would be my separator.
Yeah, I think once you get to ATN, now you start getting into a different class. Like, I think that's when you start talking about different running backs. And to me, that's probably my personal favorite because of the mixture of finances, availability, and ability, right? Like, I think that he fits that trifecta very well, and he's going to give you explosive plays. I wonder if they let him walk because they did just get Lashul Tootin. I know that from what I hear, he's supposedly a player that Jacksonville likes, and maybe they try to prioritize him a little bit more. I'll be interested in it, but I'll give you another one. ATN or Kenneth Walker if he hits the market. I don't think he does, but until the franchise tags come out, we'll play the game.
It's not even a conversation. I like Kenneth Walker before he blew up the Super Bowl. I like Kenneth Walker a long time before everything, and I just never understood why Charbonnet was taking all of his goal line touches, but you give Kenneth Walker time to cook, especially in that Clint Kubiak offense of what he was doing. I mean, it's not even a question. Kenneth Walker, I think he's got so much talent, and yeah, he's insane.
Yeah, I agree.
Walker or Breece Hall?
Kenneth Walker.
Stay Kenneth Walker. I think Breece Hall has a chance to make things better for himself because, I mean, let's face it, the Jets are just not it, right? Like, I mean, it's just how it goes. I just am curious to see where he ends up going because I think it's all about fit for Breece Hall. I think he has the talent, but Kenneth Walker, man, he just takes everything and everything's in front of him right now. Breece Hall is just, he needs the right situation, I think, to flourish.
I think to your point about the right situation, I think every situation is probably going to be better than the Jets situation. It's you know what I mean? Like that's just kind of the reality. Maybe not the Raiders, but they've got their running back,
Right.
so it's not like Breece Hall is going to Las Vegas. So I think regardless of where he goes, that fresh slate for him is going to be highly beneficial. And I think he's the type of back that can play in any type of offense. He's got that type of ability. Wasn't too long a couple years ago. I mean, I believe he was a Pro Bowler, wasn't he? And people were talking about him as one of the best young backs in the league. And now it's kind of like, he's good, but like he plays for the Jets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how it kind of materializes for him. And I believe if he goes to a contending type team who is in need of running back help, like I think he'll do really, really well.
Now, I think we all agree that Walker's going to get tagged, right? At the worst, he gets tagged.
He's not going anywhere.
Okay.
I would be really shocked if he goes anywhere. Yeah, I just think based off of everything, and if anything, it's going to make it for an interesting contract situation.
Yes. Right. Now, with that being said, I'll work a little backwards. No, that's not the name of the game, but let's talk about two players who could be available. Etienne or Breece Hall?
I'd still go with Etienne. I mean, if the Saints were to upgrade their offensive line, I think that could help out somebody like Breece Hall. But if you're asking who can make something out of nothing, I think it's Etienne, especially with that speed. Just too many extra factors, and you can use them in the passing game. There's too many extra things for me not to say Travis Etienne.
I'm gonna go with Breece Hall because I feel like they will be addressing the offensive line, and Breece Hall isn't just a stopgap or a change of pace guy. He's a guy that could be your RB1 for years to come, and that to me is I don't necessarily have a problem seeing that potentially with ATN. It's just a little more clear to me that Breece could be that guy. Over ATN for this offense.
Yeah, I think the finances probably what swings me towards ATN. I kind of broke down my 3 criteria about availability, ability, and then also affordability, right? Like I think those 3 things come into play. And I think you add a guy like ATN and you probably can do a little bit more. I don't know how much more Hall costs, but what are y'all looking at as far as if I'm going to invest in running back, I'd rather not go above this number. And I can give like kind of what TurboTax says. I mean, there's
not much
on this. I was going to say on this, and with this current cap.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, because you got to think the AK still there. Technically, Kendra's still there. You got Devin Neal, Audric Estime. I mean, and I'm not saying I'm always going to say I think competition is a good thing. I don't know what AK's role in future is, but the days and I just go on the tangent here, but the days of there just being a true number 1 RB on your team is few and far between. I mean, what is it? Derrick Henry, and that's probably about the list. And even Derrick Henry's got Lamar Jackson. You look at Buffalo, James Cook's got Josh Allen too. I mean, you just don't have teams that have just one dedicated running back. It just doesn't work like that. It's not like the 90s anymore, but just to answer your question, I wouldn't go over like 3 or 4 mil at all.
Oh,
and I just think I just don't think that there's too many running backs on this market. I wrote 10 down that could be interesting fits. And there's only 3 you haven't touched on. So
Lance, how high are you willing to go? Are you still in that 3 to 4 mil range with John?
I mean, I think I'd be willing to go a couple more above that, 4 to 6, maybe. I mean, there's just
Depends on
there's just not going to be a lot of money, and we're going to be priced out of the market of all those guys that you mentioned. So I just it's fun to be hypothetical with it and play the game, but the reality is, unless we're moving some serious coin around, I don't see it being realistic to try to get any of those guys, because I feel like most of those guys are going to be 8 to 10 or more per year, or at least be trying to get that much, especially Walker. I mean, I think he's going to be, 12 to 15, and he deserves it. But outside of him, I mean, even Breece Hall, probably 10 to 12. I don't see us spending that kind of money, especially when you'd have to sign him to a multi-year deal. So we're talking, 3-year, $35 million deal or something like that. Like, I mean, it's going to be too rich for our blood.
I can see that. And for reference, last year, Cook got 11.5.
Yes.
Right? He signed a new deal. He got 11.5. Kyron Williams got 11.
Both worth it. Both worth it.
Yeah.
I would say there's a few names. So I think there's two of them that you look at in this other older group. Nick Chubb, does he still play? Najee Harris, obviously, that's another one. There's three other ones though. Rashad White, Tyler Algier, two I think that could be interesting names to keep tabs on. And then a wild card for me would be Brian Robinson of San Francisco. Just he was doing fine with the Commanders, and then he got traded to San Francisco, and obviously he wasn't going to see much time with Christian McCaffrey, but I think those would be very interesting names to keep an eye out on that can do the running, the receiving, and do a little bit of everything, but that could be really interesting, affordable options that could be realistic for this team.
We'll see. And now we're going to move forward, take a look at some draft, right? And it's not going to be Jeremiah Love that we talk about. Everybody talks about Jeremiah Love, right? So we want to try to bring some new names to the table, some names that maybe you weren't thinking of, you've heard, you're familiar with, but you might want to get a little bit more familiar with as options for the Saints at 8 as we continue with the Saints Squad show. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed, and whether it's workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, or maybe you just have a position that you've been waiting to get filled for way too long. You're tired of interviewing people who are absolutely unqualified for this role. Instead, try getting options who are perfectly suited for that role, and that's what Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you with. In the limited time that I've been talking, Indeed Sponsored Jobs has been responsible for 27 hires according to Indeed data worldwide, right? So the efficiency is there, and these aren't people just accepting whoever. These are people accepting the perfect and correct candidates. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get $75 in Indeed Sponsored Job credit to get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hire? Indeed, or this is the job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. As we keep rolling with the Saints Squad show, we transition away from some free agency and into the NFL draft. I think, from my money, I've largely heard Jeremiah Love and Caleb Downs when talking about the Saints and who they'll pick at 8. That just feels like the conversation all the time. And I'm not here to tell you that these are bad players, right? Lance likes a few of these receivers on the board that aren't being talked about. And I think these are the type of players who come to mind, right? I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder, but who are some of the players that you think we should be looking at 8 that maybe aren't getting as much attention in connection to the Saints, Lance?
Well, I mean, obviously I'm biased here, but I believe in one of the shows in recent past, I stood on the table for Jordan Tyson. And I don't want to bore our listeners with me going into my dissertation about how much
bored. Well, only person bored are those who don't know about Jordan Tyson. Let me tell you right now.
For sure.
Boring about it.
Yeah, but I almost want to take it in a different direction, just for pure off the top of my dome purposes.
Yeah.
I want to go with Kenyon Sadiq.
Oh, I thought John
you took my
was
player. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, let me go
No,
back.
it's okay.
Let
No,
me go
I'm
back.
kidding.
Let
I
me
got
rewind.
another. No.
John's gonna go.
I
with
love
Kenyon
that one.
Sadiq.
No.
I'm gonna go with. I'll go with an even wilder wild card that I don't know that anybody has had in the top 10. But I watched bro at the Senior Bowl and was like, oh, I like this guy, Zion Young, defensive end, edge guy out of Missouri. Tall, long arm, physical off the edge, athletic. Dude was wreaking havoc every single day in practice and still was doing it in the game. I think a guy that has the potential to be a legit number one edge guy, but I think in a complementary role to Chase Young and or whoever else ends up being the edge guys on the Saints roster, I think he would be a great pick for us. Now, at 8, I feel like it's a little rich for my blood. I feel like it'd kind of probably be a trade back situation. But I love the player. I think he is going to be a bona fide big time player in the NFL and has the potential to be a game wrecking Pro Bowl, all pro caliber player with his physical tools. And again, I saw it every single day in practice at the Senior Bowl and was like, man, this dude is like killing these dudes. And it really, I was like, okay, I can see now why people are talking about him being a first round pick, because I hadn't paid that close attention to him leading up to that. But I think dude is a baller and would be great in the black and gold.
Yeah, I think he's someone you want to watch next week when the combine rolls around. There's someone who could really tear it up and raise the stock. We see those type of players often. I think he fits the mold as someone who could fall, or I guess not really fall into that, but luck up in be a stock riser in Indianapolis.
Yep, absolutely. I was gonna say Jamad McCoy if you went with Sadiq. I was just gonna let you know. But yeah, no, I think his med checks are gonna obviously be important. But talking about Sadiq, I've beat this drum for a while now, and I just look at the class of tight end, the drop off between him and the next guy, and I know 8's probably too high. I'm with you on that one. Like, let's just address that. 8's too high probably to go there, but if you trade it back a few spots, we've talked about scenarios and teams who might want to on this show. We've talked about it. Trade up and come get Jeremiah Love, right? And if they give up the right price, I'd be okay with that. You know what I mean? And especially depending on how the free agency plays out with this running back class, some of the guys that we talked about. But look, Sadiq is just that guy for me. And I've been so sad that the Saints have not addressed tight end better over the years, right? They just feel like they've gotten, we've tried with the undrafted guys. We tried with the, get the free agency and stuff. They extended Juwan, which I'm happy for Juwan. I just think that they need more at that position. Taysom Hill, that future's in question. Foster Moreau, he's got void years. You got Jack Stahl. That's also a situation where he's an unrestricted free agent. And then what you got Maliki Matavao and Juwan Johnson. It's not a good tight end group right now that you feel good about. And if you add somebody like Sadiq, the best tight end in this class, in my opinion, you're getting a guy who can block, a guy that can catch, a guy that can make the contested catches, a guy that's in the red zone. And we're talking about this offense being much better and Tyler Shuck being better and all these other things. I want to get, the offensive line short up. You get a guy that is going to be able to plug and play immediately, day one. Saints like to run some of those 2 tight end sets, especially under Kellen Moore. I just think he just checks the boxes for me. And he's a guy that whoever takes him is going to be very happy. Now, there's free agent options. That's a different show. But if I'm going right now, and that's the guy I want to keep pounding the table for, is Kenyon Sadiq. He's just that guy.
Now, Lance, you were about to say Sadiq, right? So I would love to know why that was also someone who was, I guess y'all kind of had the same brain here, right? Y'all were thinking on the same wavelength. Why was that somebody that you also thought would be a great surprise pick at 8?
Well, he just another dynamic playmaker. I mean, a guy that makes things happen. He gets the ball in his hands, and it's not just first guy comes to tackle me, I'm falling down. Or the classic tight end, let me try to slow my feet and cut back on a quick DB. Like, bruh, the moment a 245 to 265 pound tight end stops his feet, he's getting tackled 99.9% of the time. You'd be better off just trying to run somebody over and get a couple extra yards. Right. I don't understand why they do it. And if someday in my future I'm coaching tight ends, I'm going to tell them, the next time I see you stop your feet to try to cut back against the grain on the defense, I'm yanking you out of this game. Don't do it. This dude can actually do it. He's got the ability, the physical tools to be able to make somebody miss and continue to get yards after the catch. That, outside of Jawan, even Jawan sometimes gets the old tight end legs to him and get him wrapped up and he's tackled. This dude is different. And I think wherever he goes, he's going to have a whole lot of targets because he's not just, can I get this guy an 8-yard catch and a first down? No, it's, let me get this ball in this guy's hands so that he can make magic happen after that. That, to me, is the exciting part of his game. But then when you add to that, he seems to be a really smart player. He's super athletic down the field, and he blocks in the running game. What is there to not like about this guy? I mean, I think he is going to be a highly impactful player wherever he goes in year one.
Now, in your future in which you're coaching tight ends, are you thumbs up or thumbs downing the hurdle? You know, the tight ends love the hurdle these days, too.
Hey, hurdle at your own risk, fam.
Just don't stop your feet. Do whatever you want. Just don't do that one.
Just don't fumble.
Just don't pull the Derek Carr and get hurt.
You know, I've never been more confused at a hurdle attempt in my life. Like, I know it. I'm gonna leave it alone because he ended up, temporarily ending his career based off of this. But I was just so confused on why he thought that was gonna work. No one saw that and thought that's gonna work. Nobody. But anyway, moving in a different direction. John kind of pumped a little bit and gave us McCoy. I think that's so fascinating because cornerback is one of the positions that you don't hear a lot about. They have two kind of ascending players, but I think you can go in different ways. What made you almost say McCoy, right? Obviously, you went with Sadiq because that was your original pick, but McCoy was on your brain. Why, John?
Yeah, I know the medical part is the coming off the torn ACL and such, and so I know that's a little bit of a concern there. But I'm not as worried about it. But you think about Alante moving on and stuff, and they got to figure this thing out. And I love Kool-Aid. I think that him and Quincy Riley can be a formidable duo, but I just look at the secondary as a whole and think, man, you need three, you really need 3 or 4 really good corners, or you need 3 really elite corners the way the NFL has just evolved. And somebody like McCoy, man, he's got great skills on the outside. He can do a variety of things, whether it's press coverage, man coverage. And again, you go to the Tennessee Whale, which has been pretty good to the Saints. I think that's another thing I like is you see them going to a guy like Alante, go to Tennessee that's traditionally worked out on, AK, Shy Tuttle, whole bunch of players.
Robert Meacham.
Robert Meach, Big Meach. That's right. That's right. But no, I just think that when I look at the corner, the situation, the interest that they had in some of the players last year, deadline, potential moves, different things, I'm all for making this secondary as strong as it can be. And he's that dude that can to make it really well. They'll probably have to ease him in, all that stuff coming off the injury, but I ain't worried about him.
Is your vision Riley on the inside?
I don't know. I'm not sure, because I'm interested to see what happens at safety. Because we talk about Caleb Downs. If he's there, we'll take Caleb Downs. But anyways,
100%.
Right. Everybody says Jeremiah Love, but man, Caleb Downs, ooh, man,
that's gonna be interesting.
But I don't know. I'm not sure if it would be Quincy Riley. I'm not saying there's a scenario where I'd say it would be pick your 2 out of those, and we'll see what happens with slot. But I just don't know. I could feel good about Riley being in slot versus maybe Kool-Aid a little bit, but I don't know. I'm not totally sold on either of them being in the slot if they were to pick up McCoy or Jamad.
I'm gonna throw this one out there before we go. My guy is David Bailey, and I'm not confident that he even makes
I
it
like
to
that
8.
one.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not even confident that he makes it to 8. I think as this process goes on, people are going to become more and more hip to the idea that this is a top 5 talent. He's an extremely talented pass rusher, and a lot of people look at the speed aspect of it, right? And let's use speed as like a protein to cook with, right? Like maybe it's just chicken, right? Let's use speed as chicken. It's not just, all he does is speed, speed, speed. You can cook chicken different ways and you can use speed different ways. Try to follow me. I know this sounds crazy, but speed to power, right? You
Yeah, no.
follow me. I know. But if you go watch that Kansas game, he had 3 sacks and he used speed to set up every single one of them, and they look completely different. Whether it was the threat of speed and the offensive tackle having to jump out, and now you're able to have that counter move of going inside. Whether it's speed to power and converting, not just going around the edge, but boom, right through the offensive lineman chest. Or if it's going around the edge and beating him around the corner and getting flat. You can use speed as the base for a lot of different moves. So when people say one trick pony or he's just a speed guy, I look at it as a little bit of a short of his true ability, because you can use speed in so many different ways. Take the wonky analogy of it out and just look at football. Speed is a very versatile tool if you know how to use it. It'd be one thing if he was just a 1 gear speed. All you know how to do is go around the corner. If you beat him there, he's nothing. But that's not who Bailey is. Bailey is a really good sack artist and somebody who I think would do dividends or pay dividends for this defense. You pair him with Chase Young, and now you have 2 monster edge rushers coming off the edge. I think this takes the defense to another level. How we feel about the analogy, guys? Thumbs down, thumbs up, retire, stay in the game. How we feeling?
No, I'm still trying to figure out the chicken thing. So
I like chicken.
You can fry
I love
it. You can grill it. You can do rotisserie.
okay, so yeah, you
can get all these
blackened chicken. I like okay, all right, yeah, it's versatile. Okay, I was just making sure I got you on that one. Okay,
it's all right, man. Look, shoot. Sometimes you're gonna make, sometimes you don't. I thought it was all right, but it's. I'll be back next week or later this week. Who knows? And I'll come with a different analogy. But let's move forward. Let's move forward and take a look at Cam Jordan, right? I want to take a look at Cam and what he could be able to not only bring into or brought in this season, but also what he might be able to bring in next season as we continue with the Saints squad show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And listen, everybody wants to go to the NBA Finals, and you might not be able to watch your team. Pelicans probably ain't going to be there. But that being said, you can be there and have a lot of fun whether or not your squad is playing. If you ever want to experience, FanDuel is trying to make that experience and that dream come true, because their NBA sweepstakes, and this is how it works. You use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win a trip to the NBA Finals for 2. So you can bring you and your partner, you and your best friend, you and just another fan of your favorite team, if that's what you want to do. They want to make sure that you have a great time at the NBA Finals. And you're probably already looking at the board. I think this team could win a conference championship. I think this team could do this. If you're right, put some money on it. You get in, and now you're already entered with a chance to make it to the NBA Finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for a chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals, wherever that may be. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. As we're wrapping up with today's episode of the Saints Squad show, Cam Jordan had an absolutely monster year, one that was completely unexpected. I would say one of the biggest surprises on the team in 2025. Seems like the old dog still got it. And if you ask Cam, this is what happened when you give him an opportunity without the worst defensive line coach in the league, right? Like this what, if you ask Cam, but I'll ask John what he thought made this season so special for the old dog.
Yeah, I talked about it plenty, how bad that debacle was last year with the defensive line coach, all that stuff. But I think with Cam, look, just a new sense of energy, rejuvenated, obviously just coming in there, swapping schemes, going to 3-4 and just being able to have a little bit different assignment, getting Bo Davis in there, the line coach, injected some talent in there. I just think Cam went back to having fun, and they believed in Cam because, look, this could have ended last offseason. That could have been the bad taste in his mouth. new coach, new regime, they could have said, Cam, you're just not in our plans, and cut ties with him, and he could have played with somebody else, right? But I think they worked everything out. Cam loves playing in New Orleans, right? And it's just one of those where you talk to Cam about his contract, the money. He's just like, I'm just getting the money that I should have been paid in the first place. They just put it in the incentives, if you will. But look, it was amazing to see him turn back the time, the clock a little bit. I think guys like late stages of their career are still effective, like your John Elways or your Jerry Rice when he was 42 and still making one-handed catches. I mean, just dude was insane playing with the Raiders, playing with the Seahawks and stuff. Yeah, Jerry Rice played with the Seahawks, those who don't know that. But just think about players like that Father Time does catch up to people all the time, right? But I think Cam Demario has been exceptions to the rule. And with Cam, man, I just saw a different player who was hungry, still ready to go. I think that sack total, like just the franchise, like him being the franchise leader is big, but then where his place is in all-time history, I think that fueled him a little bit. And he says he never talks about the accolades until after the season stuff, but I know he knows where he's at, and I know he knows that he can get a little bit higher on that list to finish out his career.
Yeah, I mean, I think teams are always going to try to protect themselves. So having a contract that's laden with incentives makes sense from an organizational standpoint.
Yeah.
The player never wants to believe that he's getting older, me included, right? I've been in those discussions or negotiations when a team is like, well, we know you did this before, but now it could be X, Y, and Z. So I understand listening to those things being said about you, especially when it comes time to sign a new deal, right? Like, dang, does this organization really want me? They have all these negative things to say about me, and I'm getting older and all these different things. But Cam plays a brand of football that's different. He's not I wouldn't say he's the most physically gifted. He's not a 4-3 or a 4-4 edge rusher. He's not the tallest or the longest edge rusher. The way he plays, though, is high energy and multiple efforts. And as long as he still has juice and the will and the want to play, I think, and obviously receives the opportunity. That's another big piece of it, because as in DA's last year, Cam wasn't getting quite as much playing time. So it's hard to be effective if you're not on the field regularly, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he still has gas in the tank. And so while, sure, I was surprised with ultimately what his sack number ended up being, when I took a step back to look at who we're actually talking about and the person and how he plays, not really that surprising, because that's Cam Jordan. And I still feel like if he's disrespected by whatever the Saints may offer him, I can see him going and getting some more money somewhere else and being highly productive. And because it's usually guys, as they age, it's one or two things that you can see kind of go, right? The quarterback loses his arm strength or his accuracy. The receiver can't stay healthy, loses his speed, can't get in and out of his breaks quite as easily. Usually defenders who play in space, they can't get to or finish tackles like they used to back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Edge rushers. You have your speed edge rusher who slows down, or you have your power edge rusher who generally can't stay healthy anymore, right? Cam, in my mind, I wouldn't call him a speed or a power rusher. I call him a high energy rusher, because it's not always the first attack by Cam. He has that in his bag too, right? He can power through and bull rush. He can beat you around the edge, but a lot of times it's him willing to put in more effort than the defender or defenders who are trying to block him. That to me is what separates him and will allow him to have the opportunity, in my opinion, to have another highly successful season this coming year. And now how we quantify that, that's a different discussion, but I mean, he's different. like he wouldn't be the all-time leading sacker in Saints history if he wasn't different. He wouldn't be inching up that all-time career list in the NFL if he wasn't different. And so, awesome season. Unexpected because we didn't really talk about it that much. We weren't sure if he was going to get the opportunity. We weren't sure if he was going to fit in that defense, but he sure as heck did. And as a former teammate of his, like, I'm proud to see him not just keep playing, bro. Like, usually when guys are at this stage in their career, like, man, keep getting those years. I'm proud of him for still balling. Like, that's a whole nother level of it, and very, very cool to see.
Yeah, he's inching towards that top 10, right? Yes. Like he can crack the top 10 this year with a slightly productive season. So
yes, I was gonna say, Derry, he's 17th right now, 132 sacks. If he gets 6.5, he's tied for 10th. If he gets 7, he's in the top 10. And if he gets 8 this year, he takes over 7th place from Jason Taylor. That's just, if he can get 8, like, he's in the top 10. Like, where are you at? Like, he can pass a whole lot of players this year. Mm-hmm. And I don't think 8 is out of the question for him. I think he could get into the top 10 when it's all said and done.
I agree.
It's just a matter if it's going to be with the Saints or not.
No, I think that beyond just the resurgence, the unexpected nature of it, right? Like, that's one part of it, because at this age, you're not expecting somebody to have a bounce back like he did after a couple of struggling years. It's also the fact that the Saints needed that, right? Like, the Saints needed it. Chase Young popped, and you are like, oh, wow, you got your top edge rusher. You needed that. But then you look beyond him. Carl Granderson didn't have the year that many hoped he would transitioning into Staley's system. I would argue that Cam had the year that many thought that Granderson was going to have transitioning into this system. So you're looking at him rising up and being the second edge rusher or the second leading sack artist on this team. That's something you needed, because this team didn't have 40 sacks for a couple of years, and they finally reached that threshold, and Cam's a big reason why. Yes, it has to do with Staley. No, I didn't think that Cam would actually benefit from playing a wider style, but I think he played his lowest percentage of snaps or something like that in a long time, if not his career, and yet he still had this type of output. So you're looking at somebody who is having this resurgence with a little bit less snaps. That tells you that, A, he's motivated, and I would be too, right? You took everything I was supposed to get and made it incentives, and I made it back, so great for him. But then also you see a player who's being utilized significantly better. And I just think he had that chip on his shoulder to say, who I was in 2024 is not who I am. And I think in 2025, his key mission was to prove that, and we saw the results of it.
Yeah, I agree.
But I want to throw this to you, though. What's it like hitting the incentive, right? Like, Lance, John and I haven't had this opportunity. I'll speak for myself. I don't think I'm going to have this opportunity on the football field. Lance, John, I don't want to count you out now. But Lance, you've experienced this. Like, what is it like when you get to that end of the year and you have an incentive on the line? And then what's it like when you hit that incentive?
Well, so for me, I mean, this is going to kind of be apples and oranges. I never had incentives in my contract. What I had was escalators. And so the difference between an incentive and an escalator, incentive is you hit this number, you get this amount of money. The escalator means you hit this number, you get this amount of money added next season to your contract, right? So I want to say it was the 2012 season. I needed a certain amount of catches and then more than 1,000 yards. And we were like, into the last couple of weeks of the season. And I'm like telling Pete Carmichael, like, hey, man, now remember, this is when Sean wasn't around. And it wasn't like, I wasn't like beating on his door and telling him to give me the damn ball or anything like that. But it was like they were aware of my situation, and they knew that, like, one, it was important to get to those numbers because I had, never gotten over 1,000 yards at that point. But they made it their goal to get me the amount of catches I needed and the amount of yards that I needed. And it felt good, but I think it would have hit a little bit different if it was an actual incentive where I'm like, okay, after the season, I'm about to get me a nice little check. Like, it's sure the money was more on the back end, but I didn't actually even see it because it was just in my regular check as opposed to an incentive based compensation after the season. But I always cheer for the guys toward the end of the season when it's like when that situation is coming down. And I would say generally teams do a good job of helping guys try to get to those numbers.
Yeah.
Well, I think Drew told a pretty cool story, and I'll close it out with this one. Drew told a pretty cool story about Graham, and it wasn't an incentive, but it's kind of similar, where Graham and Gronk were competing for the record, and they just kept going back and forth. Hey, what he got? What he got? What he got? And that's, you talk about players and teams, because sometimes it's just the player, like a quarterback, taking it in his own hands. Like, we got to make sure we get this guy the ball. I think that those moments always make me feel good. And I also think about Emmanuel Sanders when he was with the Saints, when he hit that incentive, and he let everybody know, the same way that Chase Young let everybody know, I got 10. Y'all can't see that. He's not. I'm throwing up the Rock Nation like I'm Jay-Z. But y'all get it. I'm trying to do it. Where am I? Here we go. 10. All right. 10. But
10.
Yeah, everybody throw them up for you. But only incentive I need is for y'all to listen an entire hour. If you do that the entire month, we're just happy. No money comes from it. But if you listen the whole hour every time, you at least get to see us every 2 times a week. So go ahead and do that for me. But also follow Ross and Dylan, not on Bourbon. Don't do that. Don't follow them on Bourbon Street, but follow them on social media, and they'll probably tell you all about it. Then follow Lance, John, and myself on our socials as well. We'll be back on Thursday. Enjoy your Mardi Gras. Stay safe. That goes to you, Ross, and to you, Dylan. In the meantime, in between time, we'll catch y'all later this week.